Welcome to the deep dive. So, you sent over a really interesting bunch of articles and notes this week,
hmm
all sort of circling around April's full moon.
That's right. Lots to talk about there.
Yeah, so our mission, as always, is to kind of pull out the most fascinating bits and, make sense of it for everyone listening.
Absolutely. And what jumps out right away is the timing. We're looking at Saturday, April 12th.
Okay.
It hits peak brightness around 8:22 p.m. Eastern Time.
Which is 0022 GMT on the 13th for those keeping track globally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it goes by this name that, well, might give you the wrong idea. The pink moon.
Right, yes. And if you're picturing like a bright pink bubblegum moon up there,
Yeah, maybe temper expectations a little.
you might be a bit disappointed. It's probably not going to look, actually
Well,
pink.
not usually, no.
So where does that name, the pink moon name, actually come from then?
Well, the sources you share point to its roots in Native American traditions. They had this really neat way of tracking seasons,
Hmm.
naming the full moons after what was happening in nature.
Okay.
And in April, one of the very first wildflowers to bloom is the wild ground phlox.
Phlox. Right. I think I know that one.
Yeah, and these flowers often have this vibrant pink color, sometimes purple or white too, but often pink.
Ah, so the moon is named after the pink flowers blooming on Earth.
Precisely. It's honoring that burst of spring color, not describing the moon itself.
That's actually a really lovely connection. It makes it less about, the literal appearance and more about what's happening down here at that time.
It really shows how connected they were to the rhythms of nature, doesn't it?
It really does. And Pink Moon wasn't the only name floating around for April's full moon, was it?
No, that's right. Depending on the specific tribe, their location, their environment.
Different focuses, maybe?
Exactly. You might hear it called the sprouting grass moon
Okay, that makes sense. Spring growth,
or the egg moon.
like birds laying eggs.
hmm Or even the fish moon, maybe linked to fish runs in the rivers.
Wow. So each name is like a little snapshot of the environment and the key events happening then.
Yeah, it wasn't just marking time. It was practical.
Yeah.
It helped track crucial cycles well, for survival.
It really makes you appreciate that these names weren't just poetic, they were like functional knowledge.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got the pink moon name sorted, but there's another interesting thing about this particular full moon. It's a micromoon.
Ah, yes, the micromoon.
That sounds kind of small. What's the story there?
Well, think about the moon's orbit around Earth. It's not a perfect circle.
Right, it's more of an ellipse, an oval shape.
Exactly. And a micromoon happens when the full moon phase lines up with apogee.
Apogee. That's the point where the moon is furthest away from Earth in that oval orbit.
That's the one, furthest point away.
So it's still a full moon, completely illuminated, just a bit more distant than average.
Precisely. And because it's further away.
It looks smaller in the sky. Makes sense.
Yep. Your sources say it'll appear about 5.1% smaller in diameter compared to like an average full moon.
5%. Okay, that's a number. But realistically, are we going to notice that just looking up? It sounds pretty subtle.
You're right. It is subtle. For most people, without having another moon right next to it for comparison.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
Very difficult to perceive that slight size difference with the naked eye. It's more of an interesting astronomical fact, really.
Still cool, though. A reminder of the mechanics of it all.
It is the orbital dance.
And this slightly smaller full moon, it's also going to be hanging out near a pretty bright star, isn't it?
Yes, it'll be close to Spica.
Spica in the constellation Virgo.
That's it. A really beautiful, bright, blue-white star. Easy to spot.
So even if the micromoon part is hard to see, having the full moon near Spica should make for a nice view.
Definitely. A nice little celestial pairing up there. Two highlights close together.
Now, you also mentioned, or the sources did, this is the Paschal Full Moon. That sounds familiar. Easter related.
It is, yes. Very much so. The Paschal Full Moon, by definition, is the first full moon that happens after the March equinox.
The start of spring in the Northern Hemisphere.
Exactly. Which this year was on March 20th. So
Yeah.
this April full moon fits the bill perfectly. It's the first one after that date.
So the timing of Easter isn't just arbitrary. It's actually tied to these celestial markers, the equinox and then the next full moon.
That's the rule. It's a really ancient link between astronomy and religious tradition.
Wow. So based on that rule, when is Easter in 2025?
Easter Sunday in 2025 will be on April 20th.
April 20th. Okay.
As your sources point out, that's the first Sunday after this specific full moon, the Paschal moon.
It's amazing how those old rules set up centuries ago still dictate the calendar for such a major holiday.
It really speaks to how important these sky cycles were and still are in human culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, for some of our listeners in certain parts of the world, there's an even cooler event happening with this moon and speaker, right?
Yes, something called an occultation.
Occultation. Sounds mysterious. What is it?
It's basically when one object in space passes directly in front of another one from our viewpoint, blocking it out.
Like an eclipse?
Sort of, yeah, like a mini eclipse, but instead of the moon blocking the sun, here the moon is blocking a distant star.
And in this case, the moon is blocking Spica.
Exactly. For viewers in Central and South America and also parts of Southern Africa.
Okay, specific locations then.
Yeah, for them, the full moon will actually pass right in front of Spica, making the star disappear for a little while.
Wow, that sounds pretty cool to watch. Like the moon just winks the star out of existence for a bit.
It should be quite dramatic, yeah. A celestial game of hide and seek.
Did the sources mention any specific cities where people might get a good view?
They listed a few, yeah. Places like Montevideo, Caracas, and Buenos Aires were mentioned.
Okay.
But, and this is important, the exact timing when it covers Spica and when it uncovers it, that's going to vary depending on your precise location within those regions.
Right, parallax and all that. So if you're tuning in from those areas,
Definitely check a local astronomy guide or website for the specific minutes for your city. You don't want to miss it.
good tip. Sounds like a relatively rare sight. Definitely worth looking up if you're in the right spot.
It really is. And just a great visual of the constant motion happening up there.
Thinking back, we've had some other named moons recently too, haven't we? I feel like March had something. A blood moon.
Yes, that's often a name used for the March full moon, the one that peaked around March 14th this year, sometimes tied to lunar eclipses, but also just a traditional name.
And February, that was the snow moon.
Typically, yes. The full moon in February, peaked around the 12th, I think, is usually called the snow moon. Makes sense for the time of year in the north.
It's interesting how each month seems to have these traditional names, mostly tied to weather or nature.
It really gives the whole lunar cycle a kind of story, doesn't it? A narrative through the year.
Yeah, like a celestial calendar with his own markers. So, looking ahead then, what's the next full moon after this April one?
The next one up is the May full moon. It's scheduled for May 12th, peaking late evening, 11:56 p.m. Central Time.
And does it have a name?
It does. It's generally known as the flower moon.
Flower moon, perfect, keeping that spring theme going strong.
Exactly, as spring really gets into full swing.
Okay, great. So, for anyone wanting to get the best possible look at this weekend's April pink micromoon, any final viewing tips?
Yes, the sources brought up the moon illusion. Have you heard of that?
Vaguely. Is that when it looks huge near the horizon?
That's the one. For the best chance to experience it, try and catch the moon just as it's rising. Find an open area with a clear view to the east.
Okay, low on the horizon.
Right. When it's down low like that, our brains perceive it as being much larger than when it's high overhead. It's an optical illusion, but a really convincing one.
And does it affect the color too?
It often does, yeah. Because you're looking through more of Earth's atmosphere, more of the blue light gets scattered
Right,
away.
you're leaving the reds and oranges.
Exactly. So it can take on this beautiful golden or even orangey, sort of coppery hue near the horizon.
Fantastic advice. So find a clear eastern view on Saturday evening, April 12th. Watch for the moonrise.
And you'll be seeing the pink moon, which is also the year's smallest full moon, the micromoon,
And the Paschal moon that sets Easter.
shining near the bright star Spica.
And a special reminder, again, for listeners in Central South America and parts of Southern Africa,
Keep an eye out for that occultation, the moon briefly hiding Spica.
a unique bonus.
Okay, so just to quickly recap the key things for listeners. April's full moon. It's called the pink moon, but after spring flowers, not its color.
Right.
It's a micromoon, the smallest full moon of 2025 because it's furthest away in its orbit.
Yep, at apogee,
And it's the Paschal moon, the crucial one for setting the date of Easter this year.
which is April 20th.
Plus, maybe, just maybe, depending on where you are, you get to see it play hide and seek with a star. Exactly. It seems like just another full moon, but it's actually packed with all these interesting layers and connections.
It really is. And, you know, thinking about those Native American names, it really makes you consider how closely past cultures observe the world around them.
Mm-hmm. They really wove together the cycles of the sky, the seasons on Earth, into their whole understanding of time.
Yeah, their calendar was nature. In our modern lives, with screens and schedules, how often do we really pause and notice those same connections?
That's a great point. What subtle links, what deep relationships with the natural world might we be overlooking today?
It's definitely something to think about maybe next time you find yourself under a clear night sky. A good final thought for everyone.